Hey, Crystal Maiden here for part 2 of Sonic Colors DS. And honestly, I think that the missions in general are the worst part of the game. It's a good thing that they're not mandatory, because that would really suck. Like, that alone makes up for the fact that they're like the big the cat of this game. How does Orbot mistake a Chao for a Wisp? Seriously, I mean, you'd think they'd be programmed to know what Wisps look like. And Orbot is supposed to be smarter than Cubot. But anyways, like, this mission is at least pretty lenient with a time limit. I mean, you're just replaying the same act that you already played, which is kind of lame and lazy, but compared to how difficult a mission could be, the time attack missions are really the best that you could ever hope for when it comes to missions. But yeah, like, I don't understand why, like, it's so inconsistent. Sometimes they do Orbot right and portray him as smarter than Cubot, which is good because having Cubot and Orbot both be equally stupid would be lazy and uninteresting. They'd be no better than Scratch and Grounder then. So it's good for them to bounce off each other, reflect off each other, contrast. But sometimes the game portrays Orbot as just as silly as Cubot. But yeah, like, generally with these missions, like, I'll fully admit that I like to use cheat codes with them, and for the emulator, I definitely used a lot of save states to save myself some trouble. Because these missions are a lot harder than you'd expect them to be. Like, I was not expecting to fail multiple times in a row to the first missions in the game. Like, Starlight Carnival has the easiest missions, and it's not the first zone. Like, how backwards is that? Planning! They should have just put the missions for Starlight Carnival where these missions are. Although, the missions are based off the level design of the acts you already played, so I don't think they would have been able to make the mission so easy. I mean, I guess it could have given us the same objectives as in Starlight Carnival, but they're going to tell Eggman that they failed, and as dense as their master, I don't think Eggman would mistake a Chao for a Wisp, just saying. But something I like about the story in this game is that Sonic is so much better of an audience surrogate in this game than he is in the entirety of the Wii version. Robots eat? And this is just there for the sake of a joke. Like, it's not elaborated on to make Orbot and Cubot more interesting, because, like, they're sentient robots. The most sentient free will robots that Eggman's ever had, as far as we know, because they talk normally, like normal people. So they would eat food for energy, for fuel. Except, the end of Colors, we confirmed that robots can't eat, because, like, Cubot said that they can't eat sushi. So, ultimately, this is just a dumb joke. Plus, this game is non-canon. So, like, that's the really annoying thing. Like, this game has such a better written plot than the plot of the Wii version. Sonic is a much better audience surrogate because he takes things seriously and gets emotionally invested in the plot, rather than being a cocky and likable dick. The humor is a lot less kiddie and in-your-face, making you embarrassed to be watching. There's no translation jokes, and Tails is the most sympathetic he's ever been in any game. He's an endearing kid. He's not, like, insufferable or anything. And even the ending is so much more climactic, to be honest. I really hate this mission. Thank goodness there's a ring multiplier code. Although, I don't remember if I used it for this recording. And it's really good that there are 10 rings there, like, to make things easier on you. Speaking of rings, in Colors DS, you actually can get an extra life from collecting 100 rings. Fancy that! These ring collecting missions can be pretty precise, but usually there's lots of rings to go around, For the wisp collecting missions, yeah, I cheated with this one. But for the wisp collecting missions, there's generally it's not like the Chow hunting in Advance 3, where you have to search through an entire level with multiple different routes. It's more like there's one route to go on, and like you have to take one specific route to make sure that you beat it in time. Like every mission has a stupid time limit. I prefer the way this cutscene is done. I prefer the way that cutscene is done to how it's done in the Wii version, where Eggman's lines are kind of awkward and forced. Like it still reminds Orbot and Cubot that the wisps are needed for energy, but I don't know. I just like it better. And, like Sonic takes Eggman very seriously in that cutscene. He's like, "What have you done to them? I won't allow you to do that." He's like a brave and valiant hero getting emotionally invested in the story. The thing that's really new about the Colors DS boss fights is that you can finally boost them. And you can boost into enemy. You can boost into bosses to get wisps that are their weakness. And to deal a lot of damage. But here's the thing. A lot of people say, like, this is basically a rush game, right? Well, my brain certainly seemed to think so. Because whenever I go into a rush boss battle, my brain instinctively believes that you can't boost in them. And I guess my brain instinctively registers this as a rush boss battle. Especially since you've got the circular arena that you're always running around. And you have to wait for your opportunity to attack, which is boring and dull, and you have a really long health bar, just like in Rush Adventure. So, I don't find it intuitive that you can boost. It took me until Planet Wisp to finally start boosting the boss fights, and I had such trouble with the boss fights when it got to the point where it's mandatory to boost into them to beat them. Like, again, they radically changed the way the game is played, and then people say that this is just a rush game. Like, it certainly spices up the boss fights, but still, like, it's hard to get used to. The bosses are definitely a lot more fun when you finally get in your head that you should boost into them at every opportunity. And, like, that cutscene was so much shorter than the Wii version. There's no translator jokes at all in the DS version. Okay, that one, it's kind of hard to tell that it's the "are you missing an arm" cutscene because of the terrible cutscene presentation. And I like the line where in the Wii version, Cubot complained about how gruesome it is cleaning up after robot parts. And they don't have that here. This is such a waste of my time. Why do I have to do this? Like, it's so tedious, especially with a mouse. Like touching the wisp when it's just flying all over the screen. What is the point of that? And Sonic just states the obvious there. Like, no shit, it's a wisp that looks different. In the tutorial, Tails mentions that colored wisps are rare. Even though the wisps that are colored they make up the vast majority of the wisps we see. So, like, that's kind of weird. So this is a DS exclusive wisp, and basically you listen to the audio to get an idea of how long you should hold down the X button, charging it up, until you can release it for the maximum explosion. So when you're playing the game on mute, you can't really get the idea of how to create the biggest explosion, which sucks for beating missions. Because when you're beating missions that encourage you to beat a whole bunch of enemies, you really need to create the biggest explosion possible. The way that the infinite jump with the red burst wisp works is that, like, it's got Sonic 4 physics, where you double jump to the right if you're holding right, and that's it. And, like, it'll go exactly up only if you go only up with the control pad. So it's something you gotta get used to, but it is very good controls when you get the hang of it, because it does exactly what you want. It goes exactly in the direction you do instead of going along with the momentum and slipping past where you want to. You gotta tap the button a whole bunch to get to keep on going up. Those things are annoying. The jellyfish, the jelly bean walls. That is a really stupid gimmick. But because it doesn't send you to a bottomless pit, it's not nearly as bad as the rockets in Deadline. Even though Control is a hell of a lot worse. Because at least the rockets in Deadline turned around faster, like all the way around. Those rockets in Sweet Mountain, they turn so slowly. And to this day, I can't figure out how to control them. Like, it's not like you hold a direction and it always goes in that direction. No, that would be simple, fun. I don't know how they expect you to accurately follow along the lines of rings on those things. But it's all a nitpick in the end because they don't drop you to a bottomless pit if you fail them. Because this game follows the Sonic Rush Adventure level design mentality, where it sends you to an alternate route most of the time instead of killing you. And when there aren't alternate routes, there still aren't bottomless pits. Okay, what's the point of having trampolines that are different colors from each other if they all bounce to the same height? You have to stomp on them to get sent higher up with them. There's also a hot air balloon that you have to know to charge up the burst wisp in it to make it rise, which I found it intuitive on the first playthrough, and it wasn't until my second playthrough that I got the idea to do that. So I found them pretty useless. They just sink for some reason if you're standing in them normally. Like, I guess it's realistic that a hot air balloon wouldn't go up until it had hot in it. But it's a Sonic game. Like, I don't expect it to work realistically. I expect, when I'm in a balloon, to rise up. Like, I don't know. The wall jumping sections are always pretty slow and pace breaking. And there must be a delay. Like I don't know, I think you hold right and that's what turns it up, the base up. But I guess I must have, like, I know I must have pressed right at the right time, but it just took a while to turn. And having to do this multiple times in a row, it's stupid. It's repetitive. It is an okay theme, this level, but it's kind of forgettable. And why can you go past the capsule? I don't really like that. It's definitely a lot easier to get good ranks in this game than in Colors DS. Like, it's a lot less reliant on spamming the wisps, I guess. Although, I guess I wasn't... Like, in this game compared to the Wii version, I'm definitely doing a lot more, taking full advantage of the wisps, and, well, not trying to get every red ring. Like, if it's right there, I'm probably gonna get it. But if I miss it, I'm not going to go back and waste time getting it. But I definitely don't avoid using the wisps in the DS playthrough. It was only something I really did for the Colors Wii playthrough, because, like, I was protesting the fact that it was basically a gimmick. Like, the whole thing about Colors that is so celebrated is, oh, it's Sonic only, and so that means it's not gimmicky at all. Except it introduces a whole bunch of gimmicks anyways with the wisps, so that kind of defeats its purpose there. Thankfully, the wisps are actually a fun gimmick until Lost World, where they kind of ruin it. That and Lost World has generic 3D platformer Mario design, so kind of a boring game to play. Did you notice that Cheese was missing his bow tie? Yeah, like, apparently he's missing his bow tie. That's kind of weird. So, like, this special stage is also pretty easy. Like, again, like, something I like about this game is the special stages actually have a good, well-designed difficulty curve. Where most of them are pretty easy and doable and fair, and it's only really the 5th and 7th ones that are hard, especially on an emulator. The reason that I got better at them was that I learned to focus mostly on the mouse. Because if you just focus on Sonic, then you might have the problem where suddenly your mouse won't be on the half pipe anymore. Or like something like that. You'll screw up. But yeah, like these special stages are pretty simple. Like all you do is you get the orbs. And I like how you always know without having to look at the top of the screen. And you never forget which color orb you should be getting. Because the top of the screen is the color of the orb you should be getting. And there's also the fact that if you hit the wrong colored orb, it's not like it sends you out of the special stage like if you hit a red sphere in the blue sphere minigame of Sonic 3 Knuckles. Like, you just harmlessly knock away the wrong colored orb. It doesn't even subtract from your orb counter. So that's pretty convenient. I really like that. And you can also... I think this is the first Sonic game where you can actually get ranks on the special stages themselves. So that's cool. Gives you a reason to replay them. Like, they're so fun that I can understand replaying them on that alone.